Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, here today for no trip across the stars in the Pact Worlds. Puddles are on the mind, doors are what I'm searching for, and no planet in the solar system has more both than the planet of Apostae, a planet which is vastly different in Pathfinder and Starfinder. Let's take a look why. Apostae the Messenger is a wasteland. Little atmosphere on the outside of this rocky planetoid. The planet is known for traveling in a weird elliptical shape, which leads many to speculate it is not originally a part of the solar system, but instead it was caught passing through the system and has circled the sun ever since. In truth, if one were to ever actually be able to enter the inside, they would find the place is actually a functioning spaceship, though the original people who built it are unknown. Of course, to actually get inside would require one to open one of the impenetrable doors on the outside, a feat that, at least for the times of Pathfinder, is infeasible. Of course, times change between the two systems, and in Starfinder Apostae does have a population. Drows, Zoggoths, and other creatures who have lived underground on the planet Galorian have found a new home on the desolate planet in their home world's absence. Several cities have been set out, powered by an artificial atmosphere. This is the center of the Drow's business empire, both mining the surface but also doing plenty of business, both above and below the table. After all, Drow do not care the color of the market, as long as what they get is gold. We'll be jumping back and forth today, but that should not be that hard to follow by looking at the way the planet is made up. During Pathfinder, the only native citizens of the planet are the Ili. These were genetically artificial creatures, their reproduction guaranteed to result in a creature with a different appearance than their parents. By human standards, every form of these creatures was monstrous, while in turn, they would think that the species we find common, which all end up looking the same or similar, would be unsettling. They long ago forgot the purpose of their home, if they even originally knew it, and their society instead developed a religious fanaticism around the core of the world and the doors to the outside. Which leads us to our first side tangent, a part of the show that can be found anywhere. Today we look at an ancestry and raise your netta, the Astrazonas. At the time of the Pact Worlds, where Ili have seemed to have gone extinct, suddenly shape-shifting creatures called Astrazonas reveal themselves. Having spent their whole lives and their ancestors' lives going back for who knows how long, living in the skies, it obviously caused quite a stir. They still tend to live among highly populated planets in the skies, but why are we talking about them? Well, a DNA test showed that they had remarkable similar genetics to the Ili. The current hypothesis is that the Ili some time ago faced a threat that led to possible extinction, and modified themselves to be able to best survive. But as of now, there are more question marks than certainties. And as for Starfinder, the Ili have disappeared. Now only the surface matters. As mentioned, many creatures originally from the Darklands call the planet's surface their home. It is of course the Drow who are the most prominent, taking control of the planet for their own. However, other creatures like orcs, half-orcs, Zoggoths, and, of course, Mongol men find the planet their home. Don't see Mongol men often, always going to see them. Outside of them, there are some elementals who take residence outside the atmosphere cities, and constructs from the days of the Ili still wander the labyrinth, mad, out-of-control guardians. But otherwise the place is barren. Go back to Pathfinder for locations. The only place on the surface of note is a ring of portals known as the Portal Arches, which go to all planets in the system except for Octon. It is inside the twisting tunnels made to form the spacecraft which are of note. A majority of the tunnels are referred to as the Empty Lands, and are where both wandering machines and deadly energies can be found. Geographically, the closest landmark to the Portal Arches is the Chamber of Life, the machines that Illy used to make children. Grandfather Stone is near where the E-Creator would be, and is a wise artificial intelligence who has vastly degraded of age, but the Illy still respect him. In the southern interior, we have the Sleepers below. Untold numbers of stasis pods used to preserve the original occupants of the ship, though the question of who they are and who that makes the Illy are ones that are unanswered. Finally, at the core of the world is the World Heart, the ship's control room, though security and religion have made the area off limits to all. On to Starfinder. There are several locations which were created during the gap, and there are still 3 places that stand as landmarks even after all this time: the Stone Door, the Black Door, and the Iron Door. Well, there's 4, but we will get there in a moment. All 3 of these doors are found on the southern end of the planet, in almost a straight line. Longitude or latitude, been too long. Anyway, and almost a straight line around the south. So they will be giving us our reference for today. First, the Stone Door, which is the smallest of 3 doors. Without any obvious mechanisms on the outside, no small towns end up built around it, though there are people who try to open it just like the others. Going north, one first passes through Wrecker's Field, an enormous junkyard which survives on scrap. Then we have the mountain range known as the Breaklands. In the Breaklands, one will find the Blood Barracks, home of the Blood Army and several demonic temples. Finally, we have the Silted Sea, hundreds of miles of salt flats, which, standing at the center, one will find the capital of Night Arch. Night Arch itself is like a spaceship built into the ground, completely sealed with no voids of atmosphere. The spot was not chosen at random. The city of Night Arch gained its name from the Portal Arches, renamed the Night Arch Gate by the Drow. The wealthiest Drow live within the city, building forever towards the sky and down into the deepest of shadows. Of course, less powerful Drow and other species cannot expect to live in the skyline and find themselves at the mercy and the upcharge of their overlords. And beneath Night Arch is an area known as the Hollows, which are behind the 4th door, the Great Door, and the only one which is open. But the greatest sources of income, of course, comes from the exploration and resale of unique tech found here. The explorers have barely scratched the surface. Night Arch is home to our second side tangent, one of the largest corporations in the Pact Worlds, House Zyzurza. The most influential of the Drow houses and dominant force within the walls of Night Arch itself. House Zyzurza is the largest seller of munitions within the galaxy, which helps in 2 ways. While weapons are a finite market, bullets are always in demand. And while weapons can be considered cruel, munitions are munitions, and therefore the house can be seen as the kinder side of Apostae, all without putting on the false smiles of other corporations. Whenever a planet puts forth a politician for the Pact World Council, expect the last name Zizurza to be involved. Starting back at the south, traveling west takes us to the Iron Door, which is covered in smaller corridors, none of which have been found to pass all the way through the door. Getting here, between the two doors, are two landmarks. The Night Vault, the smallest and most radioactive of the chasms across the planet, and the Null Tracks, an area a few miles wide where no magic works. Going north of the Iron Door, one finds the Mahel Gorge, the most stable of the rifts on the planet's surface. And traveling takes us past the Kokken Test Grounds, an area for training the largest military force outside of the Blood Army, because all the noble houses can't just have one collective army, can they? Finally, one reaches Crater Town, a small city famed for not being owned by the Drow houses, instead being run by retired half-orc mercenaries. And right up north, it is around here one will find our third side tangent, the Eclipse Academy. Built underground, the entrance's only marker is a black tower 80 feet tall. Few outside of Apostae have heard of the magic school. It specializes in secrecy. Most students are Drow, but there are a few non-traditional students sponsored by one of the Drow houses. The faculty is among the best of best and include the faculty that was expelled from other academies for lack of morals. Whatever that actually means, right? As you can expect, injuries among the students are common. Only 1 in 5 students graduate, either washing out, suffering emotional breakdowns, or, of course, dying. As one would expect, and despite the Drows believing themselves superior, it is half-orcs who have the highest graduation rate. Orcish endurance for the win. Can't talk today, apparently. Finally, back down south one more time for the Black Door. One which serves as an eternal campsite as people continuously try to reach behind the door for secrets. To the west, separating it from the Stone Door, is the Obar Abyss, the largest, deepest gorge, so large it has its own atmosphere and some life able to live inside. This also takes one past the Silk Soil, a plain of dust covered in resources dropped by meteorites. And finally, back up at the north end, at about the same height as both Night Arch and the Eclipse Academy, is the intersection of two major gorges. The north and south runs Joran Chasm, deep enough to reach the interior rooms, but all inevitably collapsed. And east and west is the earthquake-plagued Hawk Rift. And now, with the planet explored, that only leaves us with side tangent 4. The real reason we are here today. So, Drow. Drow is a version of the word Trow, which is two of the main Scottish dialects words for troll. Dark elves have themselves always been a concept since Norse mythology. However, the Drow, as we know them, were made fully by Gary Gygax and are strongly and, unfortunately, tightly connected to the Underdark, the reason we find ourselves here today. Across the two systems, there are similar backstories for Drow, despite there being different orders of the events happening. Drow are elves who found themselves underground and corrupted by an evil deity. They would then begin creating their own matriarchies, built on the concepts like devil worship and flesh warping, the creatures the creatures that became known as Driders being connected to them. This traditionally evil birth only controlled so much, and there are drow who have left the cruelties of the people behind. But that said, it seems, for now, we must bid adieu for these creatures. Good and bad. Adieu. And that ends today's video. Now, I have been talking on planes and portals for a long time, but also on the changes with the remaster coming soon. And next week we'll be covering a topic which will be changing. But we'll worry about that next time.